Hello YouTube. Today I want to discuss part 3 of what happens when you are subjugated under Islam when the Sharia laws of the Dhimma and the Jizya are applied to you. Before we begin, let me discuss something that may be of interest to many of you. Let's have a look into the life of Muhammad. This is something Muslims don't discuss, but perhaps we need to know more about this and start asking them some serious, probing questions. They have some explaining to do. This is from the Sirat of Muhammad, or the biographies of Muhammad, what they often call the prophetic biographies. What was said to Amina, that is Muhammad's mother, when she had conceived the apostle. Amina, the mother of Allah's apostle, used to say when she was pregnant with Allah's apostle that a voice said to her, "You are pregnant with the Lord of this people. And when he is born, say, call him Muhammad." Sounds a little familiar, right? As she was pregnant with him, she saw a light come forth from her by which she could see the castles of Busra in Syria. I actually measured the distance. If you go to Google Earth and you measure from Mecca to Busra citadel, which is the major castle in Busra, Syria, the distance is 1,300 kilometers. So she was pregnant with Muhammad and a light came from her, and according to the sources, what they imply is apparently from her private parts. A light shone out from Muhammad, of course, all the way to Busra in Syria. Now, there are numerous references to this. In others, they say that they illuminated the castles and she could see the castles of Busra in Syria. In others, she illuminates the castles. 1,300 kilometers. That is 810 miles. How does your Vijay highlight castles using a bright light 810 miles away? Let's look at a second one. She told how when she was pregnant with Muhammad, a light went out from her which illuminated the castles of Busra in Syria. She had borne him with the least difficulty imaginable. When she bore him, he put his hands on the ground, lifting his head towards the heavens. And then Muhammad said, "I am what Abraham, my father, prayed for, and I am the good news of my brother, Jesus." So when some of the apostles' companions asked him to tell them about himself, he said that he is the good news of his brother, Jesus. Let's look at another. When he was born, I heard a Jew calling out at the top of his voice from the top of a fort in Yathrib, "O company of Jews, tonight has risen a star under which Muhammad is to be born." Ahmad is a contraction of Muhammad, and in other sources it says the word Muhammad. A Jew proclaimed the coming of Muhammad under a star on the night of his birth. Let's look at another one. Long before the creation of the world, Allah took a ray of light from the splendor of his own glory and united it to the body of Muhammad, saying, "Thou art the elect, the chosen. I will make the members of thy family the guides to salvation." Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Muhammad said, "The first thing which Allah created was my light and my spirit." This is known as the light of Muhammad. Let's continue. Allah created the people of believing men and women, the Muslims of both sexes. He created the spirits of the Jews and the Christians. After this, when the light of Muhammad had praised Allah for 70,000 years, Allah created the light of the prophets out of the light of Muhammad. And they said, "There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the apostle of Allah." Then Allah created the figure of Muhammad just as he afterwards was in this world. Then the spirits went round the light of Muhammad, praising and worshipping for the space of 100,000 years. Then Allah commanded the spirits to look upon the form of Muhammad. Maybe we should ask a few questions of the Muslims we know who have so much to say about Islam and so much to say about Christianity, because this is plagiarism. This is making Muhammad a parody of Jesus. I'm working on this right now. I'll be discussing these things at length in the near future, and I think this deserves a great deal of investigation. This Sirah volume here, written by this guy whose name I can't pronounce even if I wanted to. Turning to our own time, we must say that no other teaching seems to be able to solve the problem of war and peace. The teaching of Moses is far from our conceptions of justice and fair play. This is on a chapter in this Sirat of Muhammad called The Teachings of Judaism and Christianity About War. Nor is it possible to act upon the teaching of Moses today. This is obviously an insult directed towards Moses, even though they claim to revere Moses. But let's have a further look. The teaching of Jesus is impracticable and has ever been impractical. Never in their history have Christians tried to put this teaching into practice. Only the teaching of Islam is practicable, one which has been both preached and practiced by its exponents, and the practice of which can create and maintain peace in the world. The practical verdict of the Christian peoples, therefore, is that war is the real teaching of the New Testament. In Islam, they've turned Christianity into the religion of war, and Islam the religion of peace. By implication, Christianity and Jesus' teachings are violent if Islam is the religion of peace. Turning the other cheek was an opportunistic teaching dictated by the helplessness of early Christians. This is a projection of Muhammad's situation. He taught peace and love and hellfire and brimstone because he did not yet have an army. He was not yet a political leader, a wealthy man, and a warlord who could raise an army. This is what Muslims are taught about Christianity. The teaching of Islam is different from both these teachings. It strikes a mean between the two. Islam does not teach aggression as did Moses, nor does it, like present-day and presumably corrupt Christianity, preach a contradiction. It does not ask us to turn the other cheek and at the same time to sell our clothes to buy a sword. This verse is now taken to imply that Christians are to buy swords and go to war. Of course, this is designed to incite a feeling of hatred towards Christians because we are the Crusaders and we went and launched unfair wars on innocent Muslims who hadn't launched 548 battles and taken 70% of Christendom by violence. Yeah, Islam forbids aggression, but it urges us to fight if the failure to fight jeopardizes peace and promotes war. If failure to fight means the extirpation of free belief and of the search of truth, it is our duty to fight. Wonderful words. I'll be discussing that in a section on jihad coming up on Wednesday. However, let's have a look and see what the Sharia has to say to this. I'm using the Reliance of the Traveller, the world's most famous and popular Sharia manual. Section 098 is called The Objectives of Jihad. The Caliph makes war upon Jews, Christians, and Zoroastrians, provided he has first invited them to enter Islam in faith and practice, and if they will not, then invited them to enter the social order of Islam by paying the non-Muslim poll tax, the Jizya, which is the significance of their paying it, meaning the pressure to enter Islam is made worse by being forced to pay if you don't do so. So to get rid of this pressure, this financial penalty, people will then submit to Islam. The war continues until they become Muslim or else pay the non-Muslim poll tax in accordance with the word of Allah the Most High. Fight those who do not believe in Allah until they pay the poll tax out of hand and are humbled. Quran 9:29. This is the interpretation of Quran 9:29. This is its meaning given its full legal meaning and context within the Sharia. Let's look at Jamia Tirmidhi. This is a very, very famous scholar of Islam. Let's look at the chapters on military expeditions. Interestingly, they discuss the Dhimmi under the section on warfare. In normal conditions, when Muslims are in power and they are not living as a minority and they are not under any compulsion or subjugation, it is an order for Muslims that they should not give such leeway to the non-Muslims. They should not greet them first, nor yield the way for them. Some of the people of knowledge said that it only means that it is disliked because it would amount to honoring the non-Muslims, and the Muslims were only to humiliate them. For this reason, when one of them is met, the non-Muslim is met on the path, a Muslim is not to yield for him, because doing so would amount to honoring them. I hope this makes it clear that we are to be humiliated if Muslims have a majority and are in authority. This is the Sharia once it is implemented. You become a third-class citizen. This is the apartheid state that they accuse Israel of being, but this is what they want. Interestingly, there's this hadith here. Ibn Umar narrated that the Messenger of Allah said, "Indeed, when a Jew gives salam to one of you, then he's only saying, Assalamu alaikum, death be upon you. So say alaik, and upon you." And this is sahih. So this word is very similar to salam alaikum. And they're saying that the Jews hate you, so wish them death as well. Very interesting projection. Let's look at page 378 in Jamia Tirmidhi. So if they refuse to convert, then take the jizya from them. And if they refuse to pay the jizya, then seek aid from Allah and fight against them. This is what they mean, seek aid from Allah against them. They're to beseech Allah for help and then go to war against the non-Muslims for their failure to embrace Islam. Let's look at the history of Al-Tabari, volume 17. I have all 40 volumes of Al-Tabari. Now, you and he have written between you a document. This document is sometimes called the Pact of Omar, but this is the Dhimma contract. You literally sign a paper contract. God has put an end, or Allah has put an end to discussion and truces between the Muslims and the people of war since the revelation of quittance, except for those who agreed to pay the jizya. Again, we're looking at 9.5 and 9.29. This is explaining what those Quran verses mean. In 9.5, we'll get to that again, Allah has put an end to discussion and truces between the Muslims and the people of war, that is you. They need to make war on you. Since the revelation of quittance, this would be Surah 9, sometimes also called At-Tawbah or Surat At-Tawbah as it explains here. They call it repentance, they call it quittance, it also means the ultimatum. Except for those who agree to pay the jizya. So this money basically means that you pay them, they won't make war on you. It's a mafia. And they speak that jizya is a sign of inferiority. Can you say apartheid? This is Tabari, volume 17, page 101. Okay. Jihad and jizya go together like pork and bacon. Whoever abandons the jihad that is waged for Allah falls short in his affairs, falls short in his worship and devotion to Allah, and is on the brink of his own destruction unless Allah extends a blessing to him. Fear Allah and fight against those who oppose him. Well, I oppose him, you oppose him, because we are not Muslims, because we will not submit to Allah, we will not submit to Muhammad, and who try to extinguish his light. Well, that's us. Fight against those who are in error and go astray. So those who are in error and go astray are the Jews and the Christians. The unrighteous and the evildoers, that's you. Those who are not readers of the Quran. When they say readers of the Quran, well, those are Muslims. So those who are not readers of the Quran is anyone who's not a Muslim. They have to fight, and this is not a metaphorical fight. Make ready and prepare to set out against your enemies among the people of the West. Yes, this is the word of Allah. Wonderful guy. Let's have a look at Sahih Muslim, book 32, hadith 3. If they refuse to accept Islam, demand from them the jizya. If they agree to pay it, accept it from them and hold off your hands. If they refuse to pay the tax, seek Allah's help and fight them. That's what they mean, get help from Allah, and then you fight them. When you lay siege to a fort and the besieged appeal to you for protection in the name of Allah and His Prophet, do not accord them the guarantee of Allah and His Prophet, but accord to them your own guarantee and the guarantee of your companions. For it is a lesser sin that the security given by you, the promise of the oath, given by you or your companions, be disregarded, that you break your oath, your promise, than that the security granted in the name of Allah and His Prophet be violated. It doesn't say don't do it, it just says it's better that you break your own oath rather than one made on the name of Allah. When you besiege a fort and the besieged want you to let them out in accordance with Allah's command, do not let them come out in accordance with His command, but do so at your own command. For you do not know whether or not you will be able to carry out Allah's behest with regards to them. In other words, you may have to kill them. So rather break your own oath than that one you swore in the name of Allah and Muhammad. Muhammad's obviously the partner of Allah. I mean, let's just be real here. Let's look at Sunan Ibn Majah, volume 3, hadith 2661. A believer should not be killed in retaliation for the murder of a disbeliever. So there's no equal penalty. The law does not apply equally. A non-Muslim living in a Muslim state under a treaty should not be killed until and unless he commits a crime which breaks the treaty. And for what may you be murdered? Let's see. Dishonoring the Quran or disgracing the Prophet. Death penalty. Awesome stuff. Great being a dhimmi under Islam. Maybe we need to start asking Muslims about this. This is the commentary on the Creed of At-Tahawi, whatever that means. Al-Bukhari and others have recorded from Abu Huraira that the Prophet said, "By the one in whose hand my life is, the son of Mary will come down to you as a judge. He will demolish the cross," destroy the church in other words, and Christianity. He will kill the swine, and he will abolish the jizya. Jizya will be abolished because there will be no more non-Muslims. Everybody will be forced to accept Islam. Those who don't will now be dead. There is none of the people of the book, but they must believe in Jesus before his death, and on the day of judgment he will be a witness against them. What they mean is Jesus will be a hostile witness against you. And the apostle said, "Fight in the name of Allah and in the path of Allah. Combat those who disbelieve in Allah." Seems to be a theme running through this. The Prophet did not commence combat with the people without first inviting them to Islam. If they respond positively, refrain from fighting them due to the attainment of the purpose. In other words, you've been forced to convert to Islam out of fear. If they refuse, you are to invite them to pay jizya. And if they don't, then shall ye fight, or they shall submit. Well, I guess that's pretty clear. We're definitely repeating a theme here. So the reason is that through the invitation, they come to know that we engage them in battle on account of our religion, deen, religion. Perhaps they will respond positively. So if you threaten them with death, perhaps they will respond positively, and so that the burden of battle is avoided. So if the commander engages them in battle before communicating the invitation, he commits a sin. Nevertheless, there is no financial penalty due to the absence of there being protection which arises from Islam, or their being in the house of Islam. Thus it becomes like the killing of women and children. Well, yes, you can kill women and children. It's quite acceptable in Islamic law. And also, if he attacks them before inviting them, there is no penalty because there is no protection upon them because they do not have Islam as their protection. Thus it becomes like the killing of women and children. So you can waive that protection and yes, you go and slaughter them. If they reject the invitation, they are to seek the help of Allah and engage them in combat. Allah helps his friends and destroys his enemies. His help is to be sought in all affairs. I will repeat this exact same thing from the Hadayah, from an older translation, if it's the same book, because this is repeated and it's written a little more clearly in a different volume where they repeat the very same lesson and it makes it a little bit clearer. I'll finish here. If he conquers their territory prior to this imposition, then their men and women are booty due to the permissibility of their enslavement. If you're conquered under Islam, men and women are booty that can be claimed by the Islamic State, by the Caliph, and it is permissible to enslave you. Again, thank you all very much for the support. I've been able to purchase software licenses and books. I'm doing lots of interesting research. You'll see this coming up over the next few months. I have a show with Sonia Azam and Thaddeus of Reason to Answers Apologetics on Wednesday. Please show up. Love to see you in the live chat. I'll be talking about jihad. And thanks again for all your support. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.